Hello, everyone. It is the Prophet Michael David, aka Aries, and I hope everyone's doing okay today. All right, all I have to really say about my last video was it was more difficult than I thought it was going to be. It was a long time ago for me, long before I found God. But yeah, a rock bottom moment story is always supposed to be like that. And the reason why it's difficult is just because the more I learn about God, in the universe and her nature, I realized that there are a whole lot of universes where we're not having this conversation, where that guy makes different decisions, and again, we're not having this conversation. So, but for the rest of this video, at least, we're going to talk about, Ukraine and Russia and the coup thing and human nature, as a lot of my arguments or the stories I'm going to tell you in the future have to do with people far, far in the past. But my argument would be that they could not have acted as it is written because that goes against human nature, like basic human nature. And just as a partial disclaimer, I'm almost never going to talk about like current events like this, except I was transfixed by it, and it does lend itself to teach a lesson again about human nature, because we often transfix on what people say more than actually what they do, and that's so backward. Then you may be asking yourself, well, Prophet Michael, in your prophetic speculation, why did Prigozhin conduct his little quasi coup, and why did he do it now? All right, human nature number one. Prigozhin is a billionaire, and he doesn't want to die, and he has his own private military force. But he got in a situation where he was stuck in Bakhmut, and his private army was dying every single day. And as we've all seen on the videos, he angrily was asking the Russian generals for more ammunition repeatedly, which also means more food as well, more rations, because ammunition and rations are directly related to in warfare. And exhaustion and hunger is one of the greatest factors in defeat or victory in any battle. So those two generals, I don't know their name, but you all know who I'm talking about, that Prigozhin hates, were basically starving him out. They wouldn't send him ammunition or supplies, but the Wagner group is on the front lines. And so slowly they were going to get starved out and get killed by the Ukrainians. And then those generals, and probably Putin, they were going to split up Prigozhin's empire, very Russian, and that's how it was going to be. And Prigozhin realized that he was the one that they were going to let fall off, and we all hate that feeling, especially when you know these people are going to murder you, I would assume. Side note, why did Putin let it get this far? Because, like a lot of power bent sociopaths that think they are way smarter than they actually are, Putin thought he was a puppet master. And a lot of times, heads of state, self-stylized puppet masters, almost always, they gather a group of people around them that hate each other, so they are always fighting each other and they are always in control. Unfortunately, in this case, it spilled over into self-preservation, and that's why everything went sideways. So Prigozhin found out that Putin was going to just do his puppet master thing, and he was going to side with his two paper generals. And he realized he was going to die in Bakhmut, and his empire was going to be divided unless he did something. And so that's why he came up with a plan to do what he ultimately did. So Prigozhin knows that if he and his people want to survive, and he won't be getting those supplies willingly from the Russian generals, he's going to go have to steal them. So that's exactly what they do. The first thing they do is go to that city, Rostov on Don, which is the central logistics city of the Russian war on Ukraine, and he hijacks it, steals all the supplies, tells Putin in the Kremlin that he wants those generals to come there to negotiate with them, and Putin refuses. So then he decides he has to go all in. And again, nobody wants to kill their own countrymen, even sociopaths. It's politically unwise to do so. But he knows the next thing he has to do is just gather up more supplies and go towards Moscow. And that's what he does. He goes north, goes through all the logistic supply lines, shoots down some Russian helicopters and stuff, as was advertised, as ruthlessly as possible. But again, that's war on the small scale. Generals worry about war on the large scale. And he gets within 100 miles of Russia. But then everyone asks, well, then why did he stop at the last minute? It could be because that one Russian general who disappeared that was an ally of his. It could be because he has some of his own family in danger, although he would have thought all of these issues before he staged his coup in the first place. Human nature would dictate that most people, and especially Russian generals or oligarchs or whatever, nobody wants to be the head of state of Russia right now. This is Putin's war. Nobody wants to overthrow Putin and then have to capitulate or surrender to NATO and the West. They'd rather have Putin do it himself or fall on his sword, which makes the situation even kind of more dangerous. So at that point, Prigozhin knows that he got to Moscow, but he doesn't want to overthrow Putin for various reasons. But he definitely wants immunity or pardons, at least in the social view. He needs them to be public. And so that's what he negotiated with or for through the president of Belarus. And at least on paper, they got the Kremlin to say that the entire Wagner group was pardoned for their quasi coup and everything, and he was exiled to Belarus, which is fine with Prigozhin and some of his allies, because he would not be the first person that was exiled from a country that came back and was part of it later. It's happened many times throughout history, but you got to remember that the world is so global now that he has his own empire that spans many, many other countries, at least economically. So again, in conclusion, human nature, why would he give that up consensually? He was a billionaire with a huge reach and a whole lot of power before this started. Why would he give that all up so a 70 whatever year old sociopath could take over Ukraine? All right. So, Prophet Michael, what's going to happen in the future? Well, from Prigozhin's point of view, he's going to do exactly what you hear he's doing right now. He's actually going to try to build Wagner up. He's not going to give Russia shit that he doesn't have to. And he is going to start offering his goods and services to any other country but Russia, including his intel that he has on Russia, and try not to get assassinated. What's Putin going to do? Well, Putin's going to somehow try to replace Wagner with probably another private army from another oligarch, which they don't want to do. And Putin's also going to try not to get assassinated. What are the other oligarchs going to do? Well, they're going to try not to get recruited by Putin and have their personal army get recruited by Putin into the army. And they are also going to try not to get assassinated. This is getting really Russian politics. What's Ukraine going to do? They're going to use this opportunity to kill as many Russian soldiers as they possibly can. That's what they're going to do. What's NATO going to do? They're going to keep supplying and training Ukraine and hope that Putin doesn't do something super, super crazy. So what's the best case and worst case scenario now? All right, best case. Probably won't happen, but there's either an individual or a group of individuals in Russia that do overthrow Putin and they surrender to Ukraine, or at least to end the war, and then the proceedings go diplomatically after that, reparations, stuff like that. Although these would be a group of people that know that while they overthrow Putin, they're going to be despised by the West, they're going to be despised by their own people, and their term in power is not going to be that long anyway. The worst case scenario, while probably more probable, um, hopefully doesn't happen, is kind of like an echo of World War II. Ukraine and NATO are eventually forced to attack Moscow for a political victory. And just like Hitler, Putin is eventually hiding out in a bunker, knowing he's going to die. And right before he shoots himself in the face, like Hitler, but unlike Hitler, he's got a bunch of private nukes and he decides to send them off and totally fuck the entire world. I'm not trying to scare everyone, just being pragmatic, but in a world where there are private militaries, I'm sure there are private militaries that have their own private nuclear weapons. It's not something they were invented by states, but technology wise, it's not something that is out of the range of private militaries these days. All right, good, if not horrifying talk. I'm gonna end on this one. I think I'm gonna do a geometry video after this to balance it out, but we're right around 12 minutes. So, as always, God loves you all, and everyone have a good day, and do not hurt each other, and try not to lie.